Rogers is a liar and a cheat, but I don't think they truly know the full extent of his transgressions. His lies were so blatant and easily falsifiable that it is a disgrace that he got the attention he did. For years, journalists parroted his fabricated stories as truth, without the slightest of effort to fact-check his claims. His ultimate downfall was mathematics, and the inescapable conclusion that many of the times he had claimed to have achieved were simply impossible. These facts are well known and have been exhaustingly documented, but what many don't know is just how corrupt and bold Todd really is. He lied constantly and confidently about things that take less than 5 minutes to prove false, but no one bothered to double-check his claims. Todd may have been a compulsive liar, but when so many people believe extraordinary claims without checking for themselves and then spread these claims, they are all complicit. Today we will delve into the history of Todd's most infamous story, the oldest world record in video game history, his time of 5.51 seconds on Activision's Dragster. Through uncovering the truth, you will begin to realize just how gullible people really are, and we will quell this notion that Todd Rogers simply lied about a video game score. He did much more than that, and it was much, much worse. In 2012, Guinness World Records officially recognized Todd Rogers as holding the longest-lasting video game record, a time of 5.51 on Dragster for the Atari 2600. Now, given that a score of 5.51 was later proven to be completely impossible, how on earth did this acknowledgement ever happen? Well, let's find out. The first step on our journey backwards takes us to Twin Galaxies. Twin Galaxies is the scorekeeping organization that Guinness relies on for many of its records. So in the case of the oldest video game record, Guinness took the word of Twin Galaxies, who had advised them that the oldest record was Todd's 5.51. According to Twin Galaxies, the 5.51 was achieved on the 1st of September 1982. On the now-removed Guinness World Records page, it also stated that Todd has held the high score record on Dragster from the 1st of December 1980. It also gives us the origin of the claim, stating that it was officially recognized by Activision. This recognition from Activision was the entire foundation for adding the record to the Twin Galaxies database. In the past, Twin Galaxies had two main ways to validate scores. You either had to perform the score live in front of a Twin Galaxies referee, or you needed to provide video evidence of the score. Todd's 5.51 satisfied neither of these requirements, and this was a rare instance where Twin Galaxies relied on the adjudication from a third party to recognize the score. This was confirmed by the Twin Galaxies founder, Walter Day. Walter also mentioned that it was based on Guinness acceptance as well, which is totally bizarre and one of the stupidest causality loops that I've ever heard. We will get to this point a bit later in the video. So, Guinness relied on Twin Galaxies relied on Activision, but how exactly did Twin Galaxies get confirmation from Activision?
There we go.
Well, the original source was an Activision newsletter called Activision.
Trying to finish up the Proton pack.
Ran from the fall of
So let's just get to it.
Until fall of 1983.
Yeah, buddy.
Within these newsletters is the proof of Todd's
Right,
claims.
so
let's look inside.
where we
and
last
see
left
what
off, we
Volume
were
1,
running.
Fall of 1981. The World Class
Let's go.
Dragster Club.
Wiring. Yes, I need one more.
Members.
I
Guinness
actually
Club
almost
is the
forgot
only
to
record jointly
run
held by a
one
father and
last
son.
piece of
5.61
wiring,
seconds.
and that's the power for
Okay,
the
well,
Arduino
this is
board for the
surprising, as Guinness said Todd
trio
had held the
wanted. There's
record
going to be
since
one.
1980.
So
Let's have a look at
that's not
volume
going to be
2,
hard to
winter of
great.
1980.
And after that, we can.
Here, Todd does hold
Get
the
back to
record,
things.
now at 5.57, along with two other people, Greg Nichols and Tony Armstrong. Volume 3, released in the spring of 1982, once again shows that 3 people hold the Dragster record, which remains at 5.57. In the fall of 1982, Volume 4 was released, showing that now 4 people had tied 5.57. In December of 1982, Volume 5 was released. It's important to remind you that according to Twin Galaxies and Guinness World Records, Todd achieved the 5.51 on the 1st of September 1982, so we should find his record in this newsletter. Well, it does say that the record for Dragster is 5.51, but who holds the record? On the next page, it lists 2 people as having the Dragster record, William Stewart and Kevin Kovacheski. Todd Rogers did not even hold the record as a tie at this point. In fact, Activision would not even credit Rogers as even tying 5.51 until spring of 1983, with Volume 6 of the Activision's newsletter. Here, he is shown as being the 3rd person to have achieved it, after the 2 gentlemen who were still credited from the previous volume. There was literally no published document from Activision that recognized Todd Rogers as having a 5.51 in 1982. The final volume of the Activision's newsletter, released in the fall of 1983, did not feature Dragster at all. In the spring of 1983, there was another mention of the Dragster
think
record
these are
in
the
Activision's
two.
Fun Club News, which was another official Activision publication. In this
Yeah,
newsletter,
I believe
it
that's
stated that the Dragster world record was a 5.1.
gonna have to
Conveniently,
resolder
despite this
that,
coming from
unfortunately,
the
but
horse's
that
mouth
is the
directly,
price
it was completely ignored by Twin Galaxies
for-
and everyone else as well. So despite Todd never having actually been credited as having a 5.51 in 1982, and even though there were two other people that had legitimately proven 5.51 before him, and even after Activision itself published the world record as being a 5.1, it was Todd that ended up on Twin Galaxies, standing alone above the rest, with the world record of 5.51 seconds. We don't know who entered Todd's score into the Twin Galaxies database. During the Dragster dispute on the Twin Galaxies forums, it did become known that Todd had a long history of inputting his own score.
As a content creator, it can be really time-consuming to do research for my videos. But now, I can get these summaries done in seconds with Grammarly Go. You can even use Grammarly Go to help you plan your whole vacation itinerary. The possibilities are endless. If you're not satisfied, you can ask Grammarly to keep rewriting until you like it. Unlike other AI tools, Grammarly Go lets you personalize your tone by clicking Set Voice to determine how you want to sound. The best part is that it's free. You can generate up to 100 prompts to try out Grammarly Go for free each month. You'll be
Scores, so that is definitely a possibility. Regardless, whomever did it did not base it on documents provided from Activision. There is a word to describe this, and it's called corruption. So when Walter Day says this,
many years ago, when Todd brought his score on Dragster to us, it was not adjudicated by Twin Galaxies.
Oh, there you go.
Score that had been dealt with by Activision, and then, if I remember correctly, was accepted by Guinness. So when Todd came forward, he didn't play first. We didn't adjudicate his score. We accepted the Activision confirmation, the Activision adjudication.
Just need something to.
So that was the basis for it being recognized by Twin Galaxies.
he's lying. When Todd says this,
So over the period of 1980 to 1982, I whittled my time down on the Dragster score. And there were other people that had tied me, but never once beat the score to where I was in second place. I would make a score, they would tie me. I would break my world record, they would tie me. I would break my world record, and so on until about the early part of 1982, March or
Haha, you love to hear it.
5-1 Polaroid
Okay.
to Activision.
he's lying. They didn't just lie about the chronology of the Activision recognition either. They also fabricated a story about Rogers being recognized by Guinness in the 80s. In an interview in 2013, Rogers stated, "It wasn't until 1982 at the Consumer Electronics Show that Guinness officially recognized my record, which was later published in the 1986 Guinness Book of World Records." Before we fact-check this claim, it's worth noting that Todd's story of how Guinness came to know of the Dragster record has changed several times. In this article, he said it happened at the Consumer Electronics Show, but in other interviews, he has stated that Activision sent a Polaroid to Guinness, and other times he has stated that he doesn't even know how Guinness came to know of the record in the first place. In any case, the great thing about books is the fact that we can read them. So when someone makes a claim that they were published in a book, it's theoretically possible to check to see if it's true. Unfortunately, this does take a couple of minutes of research, which is something that journalists these days don't seem very interested in doing. Todd claims that he was in the 1986 Guinness Book of World Records. Spoiler alert, he isn't. Not only that, but the book says something very interesting about the nature of scores it recognized at that time. In the book, Guinness stated, "Highest score records are meaningless because of the tremendous variance between the games and cassettes available for play at home and in arcades. Each machine, each joystick setting, each environment is different, so that skill and endurance cannot be measured and compared with precision. Therefore, the only records worth publishing are those of contest winners. To ascertain what scores in video games are actually world records, competitions have been held under the auspices of Twin Galaxies, with Walter Day as coordinator." In order to verify video game scores, Guinness relied entirely on Twin Galaxies. The only records that were recognized by Twin Galaxies were those that were set in a live competition setting. Guinness would continue posting these video game world records for a couple more years in the 80s before interest dried up and they were excluded entirely until many years later. Suffice to say, Rogers was never featured or mentioned in a single one of these books.
That's not good.
A quick recap before we go deeper. Guinness accepted the record because of Twin Galaxies. Twin Galaxies accepted the record because of Activision and Guinness, which creates a causality
trying to find
that may destroy the entire universe. Activision recognized two other people as having set the record of 5.51 first, and would later state that the world record was 5.1. Man versus computer. Todd's most intricate fate.
Oh, that's right. I'm
The
essentially trying
legend
to
goes
see
that
out.
David Crane, the creator of Dragster, programmed a computer to run a perfect Dragster race. The perfect Dragster race resulted in a time of 5.4 seconds, which was astonishing given that Todd had beaten this time. The way Todd tells this story has changed and evolved slightly over the years, but the earliest instance I found was back in 2001.
Okay.
Rogers recalled, Activision thought this score was impossible. What I didn't know was they had a computer-simulated perfect run. The computer's run was of a 5.54, and Activision wanted to know how I could do better. I told them how I engaged the clutch until 0, and then popped the clutch already